Welcome. You're listening to Coffee Break with Purdue Engineering, a podcast production from the Office of Future Engineers at Purdue University. In this podcast series, we discuss the many programs, majors, and opportunities found in Purdue Engineering through conversational interviews with staff, faculty, alumni, and current students. We hope you enjoy our show and it helps answer some of your questions about what it's like to be an engineering student at Purdue.
Well, Jason, I want to thank you for joining us today. So it's so nice to have one of my dear friends here for us on this podcast. My name's Amy Glenn. I'm the Associate Director of the Office of Future Engineer. And here's one of my good friends, Jason. Would you please introduce yourself? Name, major, where you're from.
Name, major,
what do
where
you do
I'm
now?
from. So, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Jason Williamson. I'm from Anderson, Indiana, not too far from here, about an hour just northeast. Major was civil engineering and Bachelor of Science in civil engineering.
Fantastic. So, Jason, you had a unique path when it came to Purdue. So you grew up in Anderson. How did you end up in engineering?
Goodness gracious. So I think for me, as like maybe most people, I was a tinker as a kid. The first generation college graduate in our family. So wasn't something that we focused on within our family, but I always knew that I loved tinkering and building things, putting things together. And I think naturally that's just the way I was born. So I think as I went through high school, again, it wasn't something that we focused on in our family. Mm-hmm. Most of my family were, workers in the automotive industry or sheet metal business, and that was my path. Uh-huh. And fortunately for me, one of my counselors in high school had suggested, Jason, you could probably do something different. So you choose to do that. And they mentioned engineering. I'm like, well, tell me a little bit more about that. What does that mean? And unbeknownst to me, there were things that I felt like would fit my profile, the things that I was interested in. So that's really how it started for me, and it was really my high school counselors that set the path for me. And otherwise, I don't think that I would be here. But it was through them. So I felt like engineering, at least from a definition perspective, was someone that can solve problems and kind of put things back together and create things. So I felt like that was a good fit for me.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I too am a first generation college student alum, and I understand that, as my parents just didn't know how to encourage me when it came to pursuing college, because they had both found good careers without needing to go higher education. So so glad you made it. Now, did you start directly in engineering when you came to Purdue?
I did not, and I will be very transparent and just share with you that from a standardized testing perspective, it was not a strength of mine. Mm-hmm. I was a very good student, from the classroom perspective, but I had some challenges getting through like the SAT back in the day, and so my test scores weren't as high as maybe they could have been. That was reflecting of my grades. So when I applied to Purdue, I was not accepted into engineering, the freshman engineering class. So I was admitted into the School of Science, and through their recommendation, encouragement, they said, hey, go crush it your first semester in science, your first year. And if things go well, then you can move into engineering. So I kind of took a different path to get there, and it was perfect for me, and it worked out quite well.
Yeah, I'm not a standardized test taker. Also, we've talked about this, but we do have a lot of students that we call it CODO, change of degree objective, from a major outside of engineering and into. So it's not uncommon.
Right,
that does happen.
I'm grateful for the faculty and staff that even made that recommendation to me, because I felt like, goodness, once I got my letter of denial that I wasn't going to make it, that maybe that was over for me. But they encouraged me and to not give up and really just kind of fight for it and get after it. So I really appreciate the staff at the time that encouraged me to do so and created that path forward.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So how did you decide on civil engineering?
Yeah, good question. So candidly, when I was in high school, I loved chemistry, so I thought I would be a chemie.
Okay.
And through a couple of chemistry classes through the School of Science, I recognized that was not for me. It was extremely difficult and challenging. And because I think of some of my mechanical background, I really was able to look into civil engineering a little bit. On the structural side, interest me very uniquely in a sense that, like, gosh, that would really fulfill my dreams and passions. So kind of through that evolution of first year, really trying to identify what types of engineering were available. And I was always into building things, so civil felt like it was a great fit for me and my skill set and what I wanted to do.
Did you intern or co-op while you were
I did. I interned every summer while I was here. Some were not glamorous as some of the others. And my path certainly was an interesting path, as you noted, not only from my childhood and my family to get to Purdue, but also while I was a student here. One of the things that interested me was consulting.
Okay.
So this summer between my junior and senior year, I was the only Purdue student to be selected to go to Accenture out of their Chicago office. And so that particular summer, I didn't do an engineering internship, but I did something a little different in business consulting. But my other summers, I certainly did some civil engineering internships. But I think the combination of both and having a little bit of some experience outside really kind of changed the trajectory for which that I was going down when I graduated.
Found your interest and niche, maybe?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what did you do while you were here at Purdue?
So I was, engineering major, obviously, and it consumes the most of your time. But I felt like there are other things I wanted to do to give back and get involved in university. So I was heavily involved in Chi Epsilon, which is the Civil Engineering Honor Society. So as a member, and then my senior year, I was vice president of that organization. And then within the American Society of Civil Engineers, they have the Steel Bridge team and then Concrete Canoe team.
Okay.
And then I was president of the Steel Bridge team as well.
Cool.
And those experiences taught me a lot, from a leadership perspective, how to work with your classmates and teammates, and on the competition side of things. And, we worked with local vendors to help us raise money and to help build our bridge, from a welding perspective. And that particular year, we hosted the competitions here on campus. So, staying involved was very instrumental. I mean, it taught me quite a bit about communication and how to work with others, in addition to the academic side of my career here.
So how did you go from Indiana to Texas?
Yes. So I was, born and raised here, and I was very blessed when I graduated. The economy was incredible, and I think at that time I may have had 10 to 12 job offers.
Wow.
Everywhere from Boeing, on the West Coast, a lot of stuff in Chicago, obviously, and then having a structural emphasis in civil brought a really some unique opportunities. So there was a firm in the Dallas area that worked on nuclear power plants, and I wanted to do something different. I could do bridges and buildings, but I was like, let's do something unique and different. So I moved to Fort Worth, Texas, as soon as I graduated, and spent a couple of years designing and working on retrofit of nuclear power plants all across the United States. So that's really what took me down there. My family was a little sad, but, I tell people I'd seen enough beans and corn grow. And I hadn't really traveled much outside of the state. I'd never been to Texas in my life. And I just, jumped in a car one day and went down there, and it's a wonderful economy and a wonderful experience. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love Texas.
It's hot.
It is hot.
It's hot right now. I'm thankful to be here.
We were just talking about that. It's 110.
It's 110 today, and I woke up and it's 60 degrees here, and I just, oh gosh, it was wonderful today. Well, I'm so thankful to be back.
It's always nice to visit. So how did you end up with Dunaway? What has your role been over the years?
Yeah, so I would call Dunaway my second career, albeit going on 18 years at Dunaway. I've been in the industry now going on 27. So the 10 years prior to Dunaway was in the nuclear field. But then also Accenture found me in Dallas and said, hey, you were one of our interns in the Chicago office and would love to have you back. And I really wanted, I guess, the way I looked at it from an internship perspective, I wanted to have some consulting experience with my technical engineering background. So I took a few years off and did consulting, traveled all over the U.S. and had nothing to do with engineering, but it taught me a lot. So when I entered back into the engineering workforce, I felt like I was better prepared to be a better consultant, a better engineer. So did that, kind of on and off for 10 years. And then 9/11 happened. And so much of what we did was traveling at the time. And I felt like it was a good opportunity to stay home for a little bit and not be on the road as much. So through a headhunter of all things, found this little firm in Fort Worth called Dunaway Associates, And at the time, we were maybe 50, 60 employees, one office. And they did nothing that I had experience in, candidly.
Oh, wow.
They were full civil engineering, and I had no civil engineering experience. I was a structural guy, and they did not do structural engineering. But yeah, we had a wonderful interview, and I think we mutually agreed that we could benefit one another, you know, through my management experience, and they could teach me the things that I didn't know. And candidly, that's where the journey began. I wasn't even a licensed engineer at the time, and we just saw something that would be a wonderful fit for both of us. Through that time there, I've really been in all of the roles, just kind of working my way up from the bottom, and as a graduate engineer in EIT, to ultimately becoming a chief operations officer 3 or 4 years ago, and leading the company from an operations perspective. And so in that time that I've been there, nearly 18 years, we've grown for almost 400 people now.
Wow.
And we have 8 offices throughout the state of Texas. And so, but I'm still, I'm an owner, managing partner of the firm, but I'm still what we call a practicing partner. And we feel like that's important, not to lose, our skill set and what we do. And we still want to mentor and give back to all of our employees. So I very much am an active partner dealing with a lot of work within the organization. And in the last 12 months, made a decision to change my role to get out of the operations side and really focus on some really key projects that are going on in the Metroplex, because I feel like that's where my best value is with the organization. And we've grown enough now. We've got much smarter people than me to do some other roles. But yeah, so it's been a remarkable journey spending my time at Dunaway. And I feel like some of the skills, obviously, that I learned at Purdue and coming back to university has prepared me well for that transition of the firm.
So a couple questions. One is, you had mentioned you're a civil engineer, but you're not a structural engineer.
Right.
What's the difference?
Yeah, so, fortunately, when you graduate from Purdue, you get a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. It doesn't say structural engineering or environmental or transportation. So, we are very fortunate to be able to take that on our own as to what it is that we want to do. So really, the primary difference, if you have an emphasis in structures, is postgraduate, you focus on buildings or bridges and different material types, steel, concrete, timber, masonry, things of that nature. The biggest difference is when you get into the industry, from a testing perspective and licensing perspective, there are a number of states in the United States that require what they call the structural engineering license, which is a little different than your professional engineering license. And you can only get that through what they call an SE exam. So that's one big difference that occurs, and those are generally in seismic states.
Okay.
So believe it or not,
makes
Illinois,
sense.
right next to us, is a high seismic state,
Sure.
no different than California or Washington State. But I would say,
Because we have the New Madrid Fault.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But, otherwise, general civil, we get to focus on many other things. More on the land development side, so you're dealing with a lot of roadways, and you're still doing bridges of sorts, water, wastewater treatment facilities, grading and drainage, infrastructure. And I think one thing that a lot of people don't understand or appreciate, maybe while they're in school, is how much public engagement and speaking that civil engineers do, depending upon their role in the organization. I find myself quite often visiting and speaking in front of mayors and councils, planning commissions, and a lot of our clients within their leadership team to execute their projects. So we were just talking to some of the civil engineering students yesterday about the importance of communication. In addition to their technical degree, no one can match what we do here at Purdue from a technical perspective, in my opinion. But it's just adding on a little bit of the communication side of that, I think, is important as well.
Yeah, it's different in industry. We were talking about this earlier. COM 114 doesn't. It's a good foundation, but it's not necessarily a full application for industry.
Yeah, so fortunately, for the civil students, they have CE 392, led by Professor Tompkins, and they do spend the entire semester working on communications and how to interview and mentorship programs, things of that nature. And so I was here yesterday speaking to that class, which was a wonderful privilege to be able to do that. Yeah.
I'm sure they appreciated your insights.
I hope so. It was fun. We had some laughs along the way, but yeah, it's. I think it's important, for those of us that have been blessed by a Purdue degree and the people that we work with to give back to the universities that were such a blessing to us. So I love doing it.
Oh.
So thanks for having me, by the way.
Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
happy to be here.
It's always nice to have you here. So
Thank you.
And so let's talk about also, how do you think Purdue, you talked about the solidity is not the right word, but how solid a Purdue degree is, and how it sets you up. But how would you explain that? How's it helped you along your journey?
Yeah, so grew up here. Obviously, Purdue is a name brand, but now living in North Texas, one of the things that I encountered quite often was, is it an Ivy League school? And I would say, sure it is, if you want to think it is. But, I think our reputation, Purdue's reputation, is second to none. If you look at any of the reports that are out there and the statistics behind, what the faculty does and the students is really unmatched. But also, I think outside of that, it's the culture of the students and the faculty and how they take care of the students. And, it's really everyone takes care of one another. Everyone is looking out for one another. If you're out, I travel quite a bit for work and personal reasons. And anytime I'm wearing anything Purdue, everybody stops and says, "Boiler up." And everybody's very respectful. And, it's a beautiful network of people, in my opinion. Very enriched. People willing to help one another, grab each other if someone's down and just say, "Hey, how can I help you?" Or let's leverage relationships. And so you have the aptitude and the technical competency that we all get from being a graduate from here, but there's a soft side that exists that's kind of unspoken, that you see it's out there for sure.
So speaking of being out and about where people notice your Purdue gear, you have done some really cool things along your journey. So tell us a little bit more about your involvement with the Super Bowl.
Yeah, gosh, the Super Bowl. So what a wonderful experience for me. Just at the highest level, I volunteered and worked 10 of the last 12 Super Bowls, the halftime shows particularly. We did pregame, halftime, and postgame from a kind of a volunteer perspective. And it started in the Dallas area, 13, 14 years ago. And, it's one of those things, it was a volunteer opportunity for me. And just interesting how life takes you. So I was doing an event for work, and it was a philanthropic event for some craniofacial pediatric patients in North Texas to benefit them. And it was a gingerbread building kind of competition. And a reporter had pulled me aside and said, "Hey, could we do an interview of you and what you're doing and what the cause is?" And certainly was able and willing to do that. And the next day, when the article came out, right below that, there was an ad that said, "Hey, are you interested in participating in the Super Bowl halftime show?" And I'm like, what an interesting thing. And so I signed up for it, and candidly, it just kind of took off from there. And I remember several occasions, a lot of behind-the-scenes things. You get to see everything kind of transform over the week or two before the show. And I was sitting down one day, and I'm sure I was wearing a Purdue shirt or something, and I don't remember which Super Bowl it was, but a young lady walks up to me. She goes, "Are you an alum?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." And we got to talking, and she was one of the producers for one of the shows. And you just never know who you're going to meet in the industry. And candidly, it just led to 10 to almost 12 years of doing the show. And I've met many, many celebrities and have worked with a lot of wonderful talents, been all over the United States to go into a lot of the Super Bowls and games. But yeah, it's I'm never surprised anymore of the people that I meet along those journeys. But yeah, it was an incredible experience. I hung up my Super Bowl hat a couple of years ago, but I figured what a blessing to do 10. I finished out with Snoop Dogg and Dre in LA, and I thought, what better way to go out than a show of that sorts. But it's a lot of Purdue alum in that industry. I was really surprised. I met some amazing people that we had that bond that no one else had, because we knew we were alum and we could share our stories, and that went a long way.
It's immediate connection. It's it just makes you family. I talk often about the Boilermaker family, and it truly is.
And I don't know how to articulate it. It's very, I think people are so humbled by it, just very genuine, just you can, it's an immediate conversation, not so much about what you've accomplished in life. It's like, how are you? How's your family? What are you doing? How can I help you? What's going on type situation. And it's hard to put into words, like really what it is, but it exists.
It does.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, it truly does exist.
My favorite is, and I live, in Dallas area, and of course we do have Purdue alum, but we're hidden.
Yeah.
We're not a boisterous group, in my opinion. We're very subtle in our ways, but anytime you're wearing anything Purdue, if you walk by an alum, it's always boiler up, or you wear a hairy shirt and they know immediately what it is. And so I love getting the boiler ups, just walking around town, and it's pretty special.
You were telling me, in fact, your wife, who's not a Purdue
She's
alum,
not a Purdue alum, no.
but she was wearing a shirt. You want to tell me about that story?
Yeah,
again?
she was,
I love that one.
She had raided my closet, which is great, and she came downstairs, and she's like, hey, do you mind I'm wearing one of your sweatshirts? And I think it was a hairy shirt, candidly.
Okay.
And she was wearing it around town, and she said, babe, somebody said boiler up to me, and I don't know the correlation between go ugly early or a hairy shirt and boiler up. But so we had to have that conversation, which was pretty special. And that's happened to me quite often, if you wear something and I'm a very introverted person.
Right.
And so it's hard for me to say boiler up to somebody, but that'll usually get it out of me. Otherwise, I won't talk to strangers, but it'll pull it out of me. But yeah, it's kind of fun. She's wearing it today, actually. She's around here somewhere wearing her Purdue shirt.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. I love it.
So, let's see, make sure I got all the questions I wanted to ask you. Let's talk about what your next adventure, well, not next adventure, but your newest adventure,
My newest
say.
adventure,
Yes.
gosh. Don't get me crying on this one.
Okay, I'll try not to. We got tissue around here somewhere.
Thanks, Amy, for that question. So one of the things that I'd always wanted to do as a young person is I'd always been excited and intrigued about space exploration and space in general. Go back to the Mercury and Gemini and Apollo programs and to the space shuttle program, and it's something that was near and dear to my heart ever since I was a young person. Just fascinated by Neil or Gene Cernan and everything else in between. And one thing that I wanted to do when I graduated high school is I wanted to go to space camp. And I don't know if you remember in the 80s there was a space camp movie, and I thought it was the coolest movie ever. And so my parents said, okay, we'll do that for you. And so I went to Huntsville, Alabama as a 17-year-old and was able to enjoy that. And it changed my life forever. But I will say I'm colorblind, so I was not afforded the opportunity to be a pilot or anything beyond that, just because I can't distinguish a lot of colors, and I knew that's just where I was going to be in life, and that was okay. But it's something that I never gave up on. I just you follow it, and there's been so much that's happened, and then with the commercialization of spaceflight, through some of the big vendors that are out there, Blue Origin and SpaceX and Virgin Galactic, it became apparent that they're trying to do something different. They're trying to create opportunities for what I call the mere mortals, right? That may not be able to get there through NASA or other means. And have been following them for years of what they're doing. In particular, Richard Branson with Virgin Galactic and what he's been doing. And he's been, flying commercially for a while now, and has several Purdue alum that's gone up within his organization. So back in the fall of 23, I found an opportunity to sign up through Virgin Galactic's Next Gen program, which is their next generation astronaut program. Had started that program fall or spring of 24. And, for me, it was just, a way to learn a little bit more about what they're doing, how they're trying to commercialize it and make these opportunities available for the rest of us. And I had the opportunity to go to a launch. I think it was January's Galactic 6, I think it was, and they launched out of Las Cruces, New Mexico. And it was a phenomenal experience, and me being me, I had on a Purdue vest because it was cold that day, and I wear Purdue with pride, and there's obviously a lot of affiliation with Purdue and space travel, and I thought, man, what a cool thing to do. And I had the opportunity to meet several executives and leadership within Virgin Galactic, and simply express some interest from my part that, my goodness gracious, wouldn't this be something incredible if a guy like me could have an opportunity to go up one day? And, we just kind of left it at that. And watching the launch, it's very moving, to see people that were able to follow their passions, right?
Yeah.
And so witnessed that, and it was
The mere mortals.
the mere mortals were
Yeah.
up there, and it was a lot of tears,
Yeah.
for them, right?
Yeah.
Because what this means to them and their families, and Virgin Galactic, they just do a phenomenal job of the integration of not only the astronauts going up, but the family members or friends that mean so much to them. They make them a part of that as well. And so we're able to witness that for the astronauts that went up that day. And I'll never forget, I believe it was Valentine's Day of this year. My wife and I were sitting on our back porch, and I got a call from Virgin Galactic. And they said, hey, I think there's a chance to get you up. Is this something you're interested in doing? And so they opened the door for me to pursue something that I thought would only be, in my wildest dreams. And I was visiting with someone not too long ago, and we were kind of doing an interview, and I said, really, at the end of the day, but for Richard Branson, I would still be dreaming.
Wow.
And so I'm extremely appreciative of what they're building and what they're doing. And so that really was the beginning for me. At that point, I converted what was called the next gen astronaut to what they call a future astronaut.
Okay.
So I am certainly in queue and on the manifest to go up. In a couple of years, they are working on 2 new spacecraft called Delta class spaceships. So my next venture is I'm a future astronaut with Virgin Galactic, and I'll be going up generally in 2027. So that's my newest adventure. Like we always say, Gene Cernan, right, was not the last man on the moon. He was the most recent man on the moon, right? And this is my most recent adventure. So that's kind of what I'm going to be up to for the next couple of years.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy for you because you get to realize your dream.
Yeah.
And you've gotten a lot of steps along the way that have gotten you to this point as well.
Thank you.
But to be able to realize that dream is fantastic.
It is. Oh my goodness. And I think, one of the things that I was visiting with some team members at Virgin about, do you feel a sense of responsibility to give back? And for me, it's a privilege to give back, not so much a responsibility. And, one thing that I want to accomplish with my time on Earth here is to encourage other individuals to never give up on your dreams and pursue everything in life, because you never know what life's going to bring you. And my phrase of the year is challenge the status quo, because I feel like had I not done that in some degrees, my life would look different. Right. And it's okay to step out a little bit. It's okay to say I'm a Boilermaker and I'm different, right? So I just I want to encourage others to not give up, and if pursuing Purdue and getting a 4-year degree seems challenging, it's not something that you can't overcome. Right. You can absolutely do it, put your mind to it, and you never know where life's going to take you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Gosh,
I appreciate it. I think that's a great place to kind of end our conversation.
Thank you.
For now.
Thank you, Amy.
So,
I appreciate our friendship. I've partnered together for 10 plus years, I guess, at this point, recruiting. And so I appreciate all you're doing. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us.